Let's bring in Chris Stigall.
He is Chris Stigall.
Chris Stigall.
I'm joined now by Chris Stigall,
host of the Chris Stigall Show.
So let's bring in talk radio host Chris Stigall.
Also, his podcast is a must-listen every day. Chris Stigall Show podcast.
And host of the Chris Stigall Show.
Let's bring in Chris Stigall.
Please welcome Chris Stigall.
The Chris Stigall podcast is presented by usmedicalplan.com. Save big money monthly and get better health coverage at usmedicalplan.com.
Well, hey there. Welcome into the Chris Stigall Show podcast. Thanks a lot for downloading this. And if I could be so bold as to ask a quick favor, I don't do this often, but if you have a second, do you mind, if you're an Apple Podcast consumer or you're a Spotify user, could you leave a written review and a 5-star review of this podcast? It helps others learn about it and spread the good word. We're so appreciative. And thanks a lot for choosing this show, as you do each and every day, consistently making this one of the top-performing news commentary podcasts out there in the universe of all there is to choose from these days. And I thank our sponsor now for years, John Ruhlman, who has been basically the principal sponsor of this show and has helped so many of you in this audience, most importantly. The reason I love doing business with John and the team at U.S. Medical Plan is because they really help people in this audience. I'm not just talking about people that I've heard from through email. I'm talking about people in my own life. Colleagues of mine, friends of mine, my own parents. I sent my parents to John and his team when they were looking for supplemental insurance with their Medicare. John saved them $400 a month. That's my senior parents, all right? I have a personal friend who had a daughter with some special health needs. He was spending tons of money a month on private health insurance for them. John got him a better plan, saved him $1,000 a month. I have colleagues that have saved hundreds of dollars a month. If you're a small business owner and you supply insurance for your employees, that's a generous thing to do. Is it really expensive? And you're thinking, maybe I can't do it anymore? Wait. Call John. Reach out to his team. They shop with 100 different private health insurers all over the country. If you're an Obamacare user, that is not getting any cheaper this year. I can already tell you it's going to go up, up, up. There are private health insurance companies out there that have much lower rates than you think and cover everything that you need. I know people assume if it's cheaper, it means less coverage. Not necessarily. Or it may be that you have the best coverage going, but you're not going to know until you reach out. Please turn to the team at usmedicalplan.com, usmedicalplan.com, or give them a call today, 877-410-4321. That's 877-410-4321 or usmedicalplan.com.
You're tougher than all of them,
Let's bring in Chris Stigall.
He is Chris Stigall. Chris Stigall.
You have a great show. You have a highly rated show, too, by the way.
Please welcome Chris Stigall.
This is the Chris Stigall Show.
Good to be with you, folks. Welcome in on this Monday edition of the Stigall Show. President Trump, moments ago, landing in Tokyo. We got a live shot this morning of what is one of the landmarks of Tokyo. Never been. Can't necessarily tell you I know exactly what we're looking at. It looks to be sort of a replica of the, Tokyo Tower it's called, I'm told, in my ear moments ago. The Tokyo Tower. I didn't know they had a tower. Looks similar to the Eiffel Tower. All dolled up in red, white, and blue for those of you listening on great radio stations all over the country and not watching on the Salem News Channel. By the way, if you don't have the Salem News Channel, it's a free app. You can download it and stream it on your phone or wherever you watch your Samsung Plus device. Hope that you do. Great way to watch or listen. However you're here, glad to have you here. Glad you're a part of the podcast world, too, which is growing by leaps and bounds. You can subscribe to that at chrisstigall.com or wherever you stream podcasts. No excuse to miss the show, folks, and you shouldn't. We got a good one today. Our buddy EJ Antoni is back. Now, look, I'm going to ask an uncomfortable question about EJ. EJ was picked, as you may know if you followed this show. EJ's been a friend of ours for a long time. EJ was selected to head the Bureau of Labor Statistics by President Trump a few months ago. And Fast Eddie, this is EJ Antoni's first return back to the show since being withdrawn from that nomination. And as is usually the case, the reason he was withdrawn from the nomination, and I was thinking about this morning on the way into the studio. If I were nominated by the President of the United States for whatever position that was, and I had to go before the Senate, particularly some of the rhinos of the Senate, who we know have no spine, and they had to confirm me for whatever position, one of the things they'd love to consider is your social media history. Now, I have been on X for, in some form or fashion now since, I don't know, the late 2000s, single-digit 2000s. So it's been a long time, 15, 16 years, something like that, maybe more. Well, I guess early 2010s. Anyway, my point is, I've been on X, formerly Twitter, for a long time. They say it is because of things he's posted on X in the past, which basically are just conservative points of view, stuff that I'm pretty sure if I read, and I didn't read every one of the posts, but I'm pretty sure if I'd read them, I know EJ well enough. It's not like it's foul-mouthed. It's not like it's racist or bigoted or anything like that. But the way I read it, if I got this about right, EJ was part of conspiratorial comments related to the 2020 election. Are we still holding people to the standard that if they object to the 2020 election, they're disqualified from serving in public life? Is that still a thing in the Republican Party, Eddie?
Yes, it is. There is a small contingent that exists that will bar people like you and I from taking part in the future administrations because of the 2020 election.
Okay, so I have unquestioning, without question, categorically, I have denied that there was an up-and-up, straight-up, honest election in 2020. I believe that's true. Now, am I disqualified from ever serving in any sort of presidential appointed position because I say the 2020 election was not on the up-and-up? Am I now officially disqualified? I've said versions of that on X for years.
I think so. Yeah, sorry.
So does that mean that there are people in the United States Senate on our side, that being the Republican side, who still want to die on the hill of the 2020 election? I mean, I know one, but he's no longer in the Senate. His name was Pat Toomey, and he and I stopped speaking over this issue because he represented Pennsylvania, and you may recall, that's a guy, our last conversation was over this very issue, and he was the example of one of those Republicans that said everything was fine with 2020, and I don't want to hear anything about it. He and I ceased talking. He stopped being a United States Senator. But you're telling me there are still some in the Senate who take that position?
Absolutely. There are some who are playing the long game and know that, who knows what's going to happen after Trump. So they're still on this 2020 thing.
So to be completely candid with you, I've not spoken with EJ Antoni in any capacity since it was made public that he had, the president's nomination had been withdrawn from the Senate. So I don't know what he's going to say. Is he prepared to talk about it? Do you know?
I think so. Yeah. Yeah, because I
mean, we got to address it, right?
Yeah, I mean, I think even one of the things, past posts, it's as stupid as what can Brown do for you? Remember with Amber Athey? Like,
yes.
Some of the posts that were highlighted, like, it's as stupid as that.
So he's coming on today to talk economy, and we're glad to have him. Frankly, he'll return to his post as the chief economist of the Heritage Foundation, where I think his commentary is invaluable. I love him. So, I mean, selfishly, the Chris Stigall Show is selfish in that we are thrilled to have him back for this audience every day. He was going to be a tough booking in the future as the director of Bureau of Labor Statistics. So, selfishly, sorry it didn't work out for EJ. Thrilled for this audience and for me, frankly, because he's going to teach us a thing or two, and he's back there at Heritage. I'm glad to have him there. But I'm irked because he would be such a tremendous public servant. And because he said, I disagree with the way the 2020 election turned out, there's some Republican senators that effectively said, oh, well, we can't confirm him. That's too uncomfortable a nomination. And I guess the White House said, okay, this really isn't worth the fight or whatever, and withdrew the nomination. So that's a shame. But anyway, EJ's going to be here to talk about the economy, which is roaring. And it's going to get stronger as soon as the Democrats reopen the government and China comes to the table and gets a deal done, which I think is probably in the offing very, very soon. The big, beautiful bill happened, of course. This government shutdown continues, but people, as we talked about last week, are not blaming Trump for it. And now, look at how Americans view the economy. The vaudevillian over there at CNN wrapped up the week just dumbstruck. All of them were at CNN because people have assumed that people are angry at President Trump over the economy. Of course, the numbers came out late Friday, or late in the week, heading into Friday, after our show was over anyway, on inflation. Came in better than expected. So here's the vaudevillian in number 55, talking about the economy out there and how Americans view it.
Well, Matt was mentioning about the econ playing such an important role in last year's presidential election. The top problem facing the U.S. is economic per Gallup. Last year, look at this, 43% at this time, 43% of Americans said the top problem was economic. Come to this side of the screen. It's just considerably different. We're talking about 24%. We're talking about a drop of nearly 20 points. And more than that, we're talking about across all of the different political groups, right? Democrats, independents, Republicans. We see that the percentage who say the top problem is economic has been falling through the floor. And more than that, we're talking about inflation. The percentage of Americans who say that the top problem is inflation has also been falling, which is, I think, very much surprising given all the news that we are hearing about the economy.
It really is surprising. How does this compare to the historical look at how people feel about the economy?
Okay, so, we'll go through history, right? Let's take a look. The top problem facing the United States is economic. In the average midterm election, it's 35%. It's 35%. Look at where we are now. Again, it's 24%. It is lower. Fewer Americans right now are saying the top problem is economic than historically have said that the top problem is economic. So it's not only that the top problem being economic is lower than we were at this time last year, it is lower than we have historically been despite all the news about how the economy is supposedly softening. So you just look at these numbers and you just go to yourself, wait a minute, there's something going on here with the American public whereby you're getting all this economic news, but yet the percentage of Americans who say the top problem is economic has actually been falling and is lower than it normally is.
So the vaudevillian very concerned. CNN, I don't know what's wrong. You guys are projecting all you can about how negative things are, and it doesn't seem to be working. The American people are not displeased with the economy. And in fact, they don't even identify it as the biggest problem anymore. And typically by this time, heading into a midterm, just on balance, people identify the economy just reflexively as a problem. And there's 11-point shift downward from that in a normal time. Vaudevillian very worried about it. Don't know what's going on out there. We've been trying to discourage people and make them feel bad about it, but they're not yet. Well, gas prices are down. Besant was out there on the Sunday shows, and I'll have some of that coming up. Street tough Scott Besant, sit there, take it. He was not having any of it. He was sent out to all the Sunday shows and was slapping them around, dispatching with them quickly. But the American people are not feeling the economy is that big a deal right now. And what's interesting about that, of course, is if you go back to, yes, the 2020 election, the economy was roaring, as you recall, heading into that election, which, what did we learn? Always the conventional wisdom is when the economy is roaring and doing very, very well, the party in power generally, certainly the president, the sitting president generally does well. So by all accounts, on paper, the math said Donald Trump should have run away with that election in 2020. Uh-oh. Am I wading into conspiracy? Yes, I am. That stupid old man won by a larger margin than any presidential candidate in history, more than the historic first black president, peace be upon him, Barack Hussein Obama. That stupid old man won by 20 points more or some such thing. And the economy was roaring under Donald Trump. The only difference, of course, being COVID, which, of course, we know kept everybody at home, started mass mail-in voting. And we all understand that's what 2020 was about. So I can't wait for EJ's economic analysis to return to the show, but I share with EJ and Tony, if there was some sort of debate about the 2020 election and now that's disqualifying to question it, well, then consider me disqualified for any future presidential administration posts. The 2020 election was a complete scam. The economy was roaring. And a man who didn't know his own name won the biggest margin of victory ever in any presidential election. It's so stupid on its face, folks, now knowing what we've been through. It's all lies. Anyway, quick break here. Back with it in just a second on the Stigall Show. Good to be with you. Hope your weekend was a fantastic one. We are thrilled to have you back in here for another week, locked and loaded. Looking at you, New York, AM 970, The Answer. Thrilled to have you there, top of the Chrysler Building. All lit up and glittering this morning, early, before the sun even comes up. Our telephone number, 855-STIGAL. If you want to get in here, you can always find us online. ChrisStigall.com. Hope you will. I got the new edition of the Harump Society coming out today. I think you'll always enjoy it. You know, my colleague Mike Gallagher, speaking of New York, he's there now because, as I understand it, this morning he's getting ready to leave. He's been broadcasting from New York, I think, the last week or so as he gets ready to head to Israel this afternoon, and we're going to check in with him this week when he gets there. And that reminds me to tell you that this week happens to be the final week of our campaign with the International Fellowship of Christians and Jews. That all wraps up on Friday. So those of you that have been so generous in supporting this wonderful organization, IFCJ, all this month, thank you. And for those of you who've been meaning to and are hearing this and thought, oh, that's right, I wanted to do that, there's still an opportunity to do it in these final 5 days. Yael Eckstein, the president of the fellowship, has visited with us, and she tells us why your donation will support this incredibly unique mission. Take a listen.
The International Fellowship of Christians and Jews is both the largest nonprofit in Israel, the most effective nonprofit in Israel, and we also come with the added message, Christians around the world stand with you. And on top of distributing that life-saving aid, the message of the silenced majority of Christians who love Israel, yet their voice is not getting out, we are getting that voice out on your behalf.
You know, you can tell the people of Israel that you're really with them by being a part of the fellowship today. This is ongoing work, year-round, all the time. There's a banner posted at the top of my homepage, chrisstigall.com. You can make a generous gift right there. Just click on it. It's right there at the top of the page, and support IFCJ. You can also call them today and give a gift. Here's the number for that if you want to jot it down, 800-982-8811. So you can go to chrisstigall.com and click on that banner at the top, or dial 800-982-8811. That's 800-982-8811. And thanks in advance to our friends at IFCJ for the work that they do, and thanks in advance to you for being so generous in your giving. And, you know, it reminds me also, while I'm here and talking about it, that yesterday, it's been my great honor in the month of October, on Sundays in my church home. I'm part of an adult Sunday school class before worship, and there's been a woman that's been leading this class for a few years now, and she's spectacular. And then she announced, you know what, I want a break. I'm going to take a little time. She didn't leave the class. She just wanted a break. And she said, is there anybody willing to step up and lead the class for a while in discussion? Well, they were big shoes to fill, and there was a big discussion about who would do it. And so this one woman who's so spectacular at it, it ultimately ended up becoming a deal where 4 of us decided to step up and on rotation try to fill in for her. And we came into this new study of Romans, the book of Romans. And so it takes 4 of us to replace this woman, basically, is what we first learned. And we're not really even replacing her. We're just trying to do our level best. And each of us decided to do a month of Romans. So I was third in line. We started this back in August, so August, September. October fell on me. And I think I told you a little about this, but it's so amazing the way God works, because this was as much for me as it was the rest of the class. I have been able to lead the discussion very specifically. I started with Romans 6, and I carried it through 9 yesterday. And I got to lead discussion, and I've been spending a lot of time in Romans 9 over the last couple of weeks getting ready for yesterday's class. And yesterday I led the discussion on Romans 9, and the reason I'm bringing this up to you is for no other reason than I would encourage you, if you're listening to me, I'm not preaching. I know this gets some people email me, Stigall, I didn't come here for a sermon. I'm not giving you a sermon. I'm trying to give you a little perspective here. When you talk about Israel, you really need to spend some time in Romans 9, 10, and 11. You need to read what Paul wrote in Romans 9, 10, and 11 about Israel. If you find yourself here in 2025, and you know who I mean, Ed, I'm not going to mention them, but you know who I mean. There's been an aggressive, very hostile push against Israel, and I say Jews broadly. I think it teeters on anti-Semitism, but all right, I'll give them the benefit of the doubt and say it's not anti-Semitism, but it's distinctly anti-Israel. True?
Oh, very true. Yep.
Yeah, it's becoming a cottage industry. And I would just say, if you call yourself a Christian and you read Romans 9, 10, and 11 specifically, I mean, you go to Deuteronomy and Genesis too, but if you read Romans 9, 10, and 11 and you don't come away with a better understanding of Israel and its place in our world as Christians, you're not doing it right. That's all I'll say. A little foggy, low-lying clouds this morning in Oklahoma City, Oklahoma. Watching you on the Salem News Channel. Good to have you along. Thanks for listening throughout the Sooner State. Glad to have you wherever you happen to be. If you're listening on great radio stations throughout Oklahoma, watching on the Salem News Channel, great to have you along. 855-STIGAL is how you reach us. I'm done after this. Let me just say, because I was talking to Eddie about it during the break, wanted to preface what I was just saying a minute ago? You can hold two thoughts in your head at the same time. Ready? Here we go. You can read Romans 9, and you can appreciate the role of Israel, but at the same time, you do not have to endorse every behavior from the prime minister and government of modern-day Israel, the government of Israel. Ready? You can be supportive of Israel and the Jewish lineage in biblical history and its importance to all of us as believers without rubber stamping everything the government of Israel does in 2025. Did you know that? That's called threading a needle, ladies and gentlemen. That's called nuance. And I know nuance does not sell in my business in 2025, but that's true. You can actually hold both positions at the same time. Respect the historical and biblical significance of the Jewish lineage and our role in it and our ties to it without saying modern Israel in 2025 is sacrosanct and beyond reproach and can't be criticized. It's true. Get next to somebody who actually knows a little bit of Scripture in the Bible, not me, but somebody who's actually an authority, a theologian on it, and I think most of them will tell you that's so. Might have to do a special podcast on this subject, I think. It has really, I must say, I've been ignorant to it, and I've been very, very enlightened, just in my own studies and my own listening and my own watching and my own note-taking over the last couple of weeks on this subject. I recommend it to you for those of you. And in fact, my wife was in the class yesterday, and she said, you know, Chris, I have learned more just based on what you've been kind of brushing over, glossing over, and talking about this morning in this class than I've understood. She said, I've been really tormented by all the discussion. She's watching the same thing that you are, and I am, in your social media feed. It's full of conservatives telling you that Israel, yesterday's news, take a hike. We have no obligation to them. Screw them. In fact, they're even bad actors. It's got historical precedent. And it's really alarmed me. And I told the class that yesterday. I said, I am deeply personally alarmed as a conservative. It's one thing to watch the leftists, the Zoran Mandamis. I mean, there's a straight up left-wing Islamo-fascist about to take over New York. That alarms me. But that alarms me even less because I expect that from the left. It alarms me that it's bubbling up on our side. And again, if you don't know what I'm talking about, consider yourself blessed and fortunate. It's probably because you don't consume enough social media, and that's good for you. But if you're like me and you spend any amount of time, watching Instagram reels or watching X feeds of some prominent people on those platforms in our conservative space discussing Israel today, very disconcerting. Feels kind of clanny, as my friend Kurt Schlichter once said. It feels a little, if you found out there was some stuff going on in the basement, you wouldn't be surprised. It's a little much. And I think it's because, I said to Fast Eddie during the break, I have concluded that our side in 2025 in the modern era of media, as I've explained to you, you have to click. Everything's about clicks and downloads now. It's digital traffic. It's replaced ratings. In traditional broadcasting, it used to be ratings. Now it's about who's downloading you. How many downloads do you have? How many clicks do you have? How many views do you have? And how do you get those? By saying sensational things. You have to have controversy. Because there's so much of it, it's got to get your attention. And so how do you do that? You say sensational things. Now, the thing about that is ultimately whether it's responsible or not, whether it's truthful or not, it doesn't matter. They got you to click, right? That's all. That's all that matters. And when you have President Trump winning as he is, he's over in Malaysia dancing yesterday. See all those guys in hats? Trump broke out a new dance yesterday. All those people in Malaysia look like they're having a great time. I don't think they spend a lot of time on X. They were dancing, greeting the president. He gets off. He's just, he's striking up new trade deals over there. The guy, you just heard the numbers off the top of the show from Harry Enton. People are not upset with this president. He is on offense and he is winning. As such, in my business, when you have a president winning and you have a Republican Party that's in total control of Congress, and we're waiting for the midterms to arrive, look, I'll be honest with you, it is not as sexy for people in the clickbait world to talk about President Trump winning. Ed, does that make sense? People get bored. Believe it or not you, I'm not talking about this audience, but there are a lot of people in my business that get bored talking to you about Donald Trump and Republicans actually being on offense and achieving something and winning. That's a boring subject to them. doesn't keep people's attention, they feel.
No. Yes, no. There are conspiracies that are much, much more fun to talk about, Chris.
And so that's why if you're someone who's paid attention to this and you wonder, where's all this coming from? Ed said it feels like a fire hydrant and it's coming fast. I said, that's where it's coming from. It's people sitting around saying, well, what can we do to fill the vacuum? Because if we just sit around and talk about Trump being victorious, people get bored with that. So that's why you start hearing discussions about everything from aliens to Israel to COVID again. It's like, where did this come from all of a sudden? Well, Trump's in Malaysia dancing, and that's not particularly sexy anymore. So, booga booga. There's a new thing around the corner you ought to be worried about. That's all. I know this audience is sophisticated and smart. You don't probably even need that explanation. Some of you are probably like, what are you even talking about, Stigall? I get it. If that's you, consider yourself blessed, my friend. All right, let's get to it. Scott Bessent, street tough, sit there, take it, don't retaliate. They rolled him out on the Sunday shows. We don't get to see him often, but when they do, you know it's both barrels. Scott Bessent, put up your dukes. He hit every one of the Sunday shows, firing on all cylinders here. He starts on Meet the Press in number 59.
Now in the second longest shutdown in U.S. history, when will President Trump meet with Democrats to try to bring this shutdown to a close and get federal workers their paychecks back again, Mr. Secretary?
Well, Chris, I'm going to have to reject the premise of your question. Why does President Trump have to meet with Democrats? Democrats just need to go into the Senate and vote to end the shutdown.
But President Trump has said in the past it's up to the president. He's the president. No, he said that in the past. He said you have to be a leader. The president has to lead. You have to get people into a room. You have to get a deal. When's he going to do that?
Well, he is leading, and there's no deal to do with Chuck Schumer. Chuck Schumer is trading off his polls. What's different than when he passed a clean CR in the spring? It's his polls. You know, the whole country's being held captive to AOC's polls. Well, let's look at the numbers. It's 52-3. 52 Republicans have voted, I believe it's 11 times, to reopen the government. 3 Democrats have. And right here, right now, I would urge moderate Democratic senators to come across the aisle, reopen the government, because I'll tell you, we're starting to eat into muscle here. This is starting to affect travel. It's starting to affect the economy. And, you know, this is quixotic. I don't know what the purpose is. I'm not sure they do.
Yeah, so it's President Trump's responsibility to call Democrats in to negotiate something there's nothing to negotiate over. They want to. Everybody understands this. They want to continue to spend money at the current level. They don't want to add. The Democrats want to add. Trump says we're not adding. Thune says we're not adding. Johnson says we're not adding. We just want to keep spending at current levels. Democrats say no. We want to play football with it. Well, as more than 1 million government employees go without pay, many are turning to side jobs and food banks to make ends meet. Here come the stories from the New York Times. When Jill Hornick woke up Monday morning, her first thought was her time card would be submitted that day for her job with the Social Security Administration in Chicago. But this Monday was different. The federal government locked in a shutdown, and she received a paycheck for $0. It's the only income I had, she said. And I just started crying. I had a meltdown. Miss Hornick, she's 59 years of age, and she is one of 730,000 federal employees working without pay because of the impasse. Another 670,000 federal workers are furloughed without pay. So this is the week that they start rolling out the stories of the 59-year-old woman crying because of the shutdown. Question, Fast Eddie, as we start to hear more of these stories, will this impact what we just let off, the vaudevillian, talking about the economy, not hurting Trump, people feeling pretty good about it? Will these sad sack stories work, and will that be blamed on Donald Trump? Or do people understand this is the Democrats trying to play a game with something the Republicans are just trying to rubber stamp business as usual?
This time around, I think they understand. The left has a strong hand with the Medicare thing and the Obamacare thing, but this, as far as the economy goes, no, they aren't coming to the table to reopen it.
All right. More on Meet the Press. Kristen Welker trying to tag Bessent on the economy, and he's having none of it when it comes to inflation. Take a listen. Number 60.
Well, Kristen, it's unfortunate. As much as I like you, you like to cherry pick. So, when we came in, it was eggflation. Egg prices are down, gasoline prices are down. Overall, the inflation since President Trump has come in, has come down. We inherited this terrible affordability crisis from the Biden administration. The first thing we had to do was get it under control. And this month's inflation number was actually below the consensus number. If we look at core inflation, it was 0.2%, which was the lowest it's been in a long time. Rents are coming down. So, Kristen, you don't get to cherry pick. Inflation is a composite number, and I am confident that in the coming months, inflation is going to come down.
Then he headed over to ABC. Martha did her best to try to tackle Bessent on the shutdown. Again, he's street tough Scott Bessent. Sit there, take it. You're not going to screw with him. You can't box Bessent in, baby. No, sir. Number 61.
And today is day 26. I know you have been over there, but there has been a government shutdown here. People are suffering. Federal employees are starting to go to food banks. Any light at the end of the tunnel on that? Should the president be meeting with Democrats again?
Well, what good does it do, Martha? They've dug in. The American people are hostage to Chuck Schumer and Hakeem Jeffries' poll numbers, because what's changed between now and the last time there was a clean continuing resolution is Chuck Schumer has tanked in the polls. Both of the two guys from Brooklyn, like I call them, are worried about being primaried from the left. 52 Republican senators have voted 11 times to reopen the government. 3 brave, moderate Democrats have come across the aisle. So, I call on moderate Democratic senators to end this craziness. Okay. You'll be heroes.
Yep, they will be. They will be heroes if you get these Democrat senators to join the fray. Need about 5 of them, I think is the math. 4 or 5 of them now. We'll see. If these stories continue to pour out of places like the New York Times, people crying and can't feed their families and whatnot, will that cause Democrats to break? They're betting on this hurting Donald Trump. So far, the numbers do not suggest that's so. Morning, Cincinnati. I was just we're looking at Cincinnati this morning on the Salem News Channel, folks. Those of you that are listening on places like The Ticket in Cincinnati, 1450 a.m. Thrilled to have you along. Cincinnati is where my buddy John Ruhlman is based. Not doing an ad here, but just telling you that open enrollment's November 1st start date. That looms over Obamacare and the subsidies debate in Congress. If you are someone, I'm just going to tell you, this is, again, it's not an ad. It's sort of an ad, but it's not meant to be. If you're somebody that is really freaked about your insurance rates, your health insurance rates, I want you to go to usmedicalplan.com. They are sponsors, that's true, but I want you to know that if you're a senior citizen and you're stressed about your money, you're stressed about paying way too much for your supplemental, if you're somebody that's buying your own health insurance for your family, if you're somebody that buys it from Obamacare, and without government subsidies, it's going to go through the roof and it becomes unaffordable. I know it's one of the most expensive things you pay for in the course of a month. I'm telling you, it doesn't have to be that way. All right? And this is as much just a public service, friend to friend, from another friend named John Ruhlman in Cincinnati who operates usmedicalplan.com. usmedicalplan.com. He is he's basically, for want of a better term, an insurance broker. He can call around the country and find you the very best rate. And it does not have to be hundreds or thousands of dollars a month. It's outrageous, frankly, as long as there is still a private health insurance market, and that's what we want. Despite the mandamis of the world promising otherwise, we want a private health insurance market. Because when you have a private health insurance market, and John knows 100 different private health insurers, he can call around to them and get you the very best rate. And believe it or not, you can have health insurance the same as you have it now, and it does not have to cost you like a house payment every month. It is stunning to me when I hear what people are spending a month on health insurance. And people get frightened because they don't have it or they need it. And they're like, I need it. I can't not have health insurance. Okay, fine. But you can shop and do better than what you're paying, certainly through Obamacare, I promise. So that's just Okay, call it a free ad if you want, but it's, I'm trying to help as much as I can there because I know that's something that stresses a lot of people out, the cost and the coverage. So just from me to you, if you have any questions about it, you can dial up the show at 855-STIGAL. They have popped a couple of people who are implicated in this Louvre theft. Authorities have arrested 2 suspects in last week's theft of crown jewels from the Louvre Museum. Investigators making the arrests Saturday evening. They caught one man trying to book it out of the airport there, Charles de Gaulle. Not Stigall, folks. A lot of people think I'm a Frenchman. Degaul is the name of their airport there in Paris. It's the Charles de Gaulle Airport, not to be confused with Chris Stigall. Always an opportunity to explain that when I cross that name in my copy, because I still get emails that say, Mr. de Gaulle. Nope. That's the Frenchman airport, not that. Anyway, guy's trying to book it out of there. They caught him. And then the 2 men in custody have a history of burglaries. The stolen items estimated to be worth $102 million. You know what I want to know? The first thing I want to know, and I told you this when I found out about this heist, I want to know where they were going with them. Do you check that, Fast Eddie? Do you carry it and carry on? Do you store it in the overhead compartment? The crown jewels, $130 million worth?
Maybe during the shutdown, yeah. You could probably you could probably fly freely.
I'm imagining the TSA guy looking at the screen, the bag going through the... he's staring at the screen. What are those? I'm sure it's fine. Go ahead. Does he make you pull it out? Are people looking for the crown jewels in bags there, do you think, at the airport?
I don't know, man. I don't have that much faith in the people.
One of them's a crown, right? Didn't they steal a whole crown?
I think so.
I feel like I'm really kind of intrigued. What does the TSA agent, if he you all know that one of the most famous museums in the world has just been robbed of some of the most famous jewels in the world, and then a guy comes through, security screening at the airport, and you're the TSA guy looking at the screen, and there's a crown in the guy's bag. Do you stop him? Do you even know? Do you make the connection? I guess if you don't follow the news, do you know what it is? You think it's costume?
That's a Burger King crown. Yeah. All right, pass it
through.
No
Kings. He was going to the No Kings rally. That's what it was. Yeah. Which, by the way, I got a story on that coming up, too. Who attended the No Kings rally? Not a surprise. But anyway, the first thing I would want to know, give me 5 minutes with these guys. My question is, where were you taking these? How were you going to make good on the cash? Who do you sell that to? Who's buying it? Is there a market for it? Is there an independently rich guy or people that will give you cold, hard cash for crown jewels? You can't. It's not like you can go to the, Hellsberg or Zales or whatever those diamond stores. You're not gonna see it in a glass case somewhere. You can buy it at the mall. Where do you take these? I'm so intrigued with that. You know what else I didn't know about this jewelry heist? I wrote a little about this, or at least Chris Drebin, my fictitious investigative character at the Harum Society. Credit to him, perhaps. You could check it out last week. I wrote a little about this there. Had a little fun with it. I did not know until I read a little further. This was in broad daylight, Eddie. I thought this was at night. This was in broad daylight. These guys stole a lift truck with a ladder, and in broad daylight, I guess they were dressed to look like they were doing legit work. Sort of brilliant in a way. They did it in broad daylight to make people think, they're just doing maintenance or work, and they crashed through the thing, held a couple of guys hostage inside, stole the jewels, and climbed back down the ladder in broad daylight.
And this,
not bad.
And this is how I've met so many bands in the day. I just literally kind of go into the commotion that is the backstage area and just walk up and start shooting the breeze with anybody. And it's like I'm a part of the whole thing. Just I'm supposed to be here. I don't have a pass.
He belongs here. That's half the thing. They say half the secret to life is just acting like you belong there.
Yep.
Just showing up and acting like you belong. You can get away with anything. Hey, are you ready to drop serious weight before the new year? Yeah, come on. I'm talking about at least up to 20 pounds. I bet you can even lose more than that, but at least 20. PhD Weight Loss is the trick. They've cracked the code with their metabolic reset system. This is a science-backed method that gets your body to burn fat first. It's worked so well for me. I lost over 40 pounds in just 4 months' time. I feel fantastic. This program is so simple, guys. They tell you exactly when to eat. They tell you what to eat. I'm the kind of guy, just tell me what to do. I don't want to think about it. Just tell me what to do. That's what they do. They customize the program to your body's needs and your specific schedule. PhD Weight Loss is the only program that guarantees success and your results. No starving, no endless workouts, no risky drugs. Just a smarter system that resets your metabolism. It shrinks that dangerous belly fat. It keeps the weight off, most importantly, for good. Now, when you call, if you do it today, they're going to waive your consultation fee. You'll get 2 extra weeks totally free, and they'll cover the cost of your food during the program. And just for booking, you're going to get Dr. Ashley Lucas's book, 5 Steps to Reset the Scale. It's quite a deal. But you got to do it quickly because this offer is only good until the end of October. Come on, lose weight with me. Call now. Mention the code New Year. Call 864-644-1900 and mention that code New Year. 864-644-1900 or visit the website myphdweightloss.com. 864-644-1900 or myphdweightloss.com.
You're tougher than all of them.
Let's begin with Chris Stigall.
He is Chris Stigall. Chris Stigall.
You have a great show. You have a highly rated show, too, by the way.
Please welcome Chris Stigall.
This is the Chris Stigall Show.
CNN this morning, 79. This is new this morning at CNN. 79-year-old Trump says he received MRI. Did not say why. Good morning, New York. Beautiful looking sunrise this morning. Thanks for listening on AM 970, The Answer, and throughout the Empire State. Glad to have you along. Trump, age 79, has MRI last week, does not disclose why. This just in, new this morning at the top of the hour at CNN. Dun, dun, dun. Eddie, is that alarming to you? Does that concern you as he's over there dancing in Malaysia yesterday?
No, I'm not concerned. He should be fine.
You know what? If I'm president of the United States and I'm 79, I'm taking advantage of every piece of machinery there is out there and doing it regularly. Wouldn't you? On the double. Yeah, run me through one of those. Give me one of those. I'll take 2 of those.
Yes.
He gets it all free, right? I mean, if you're going to do it, have a look under the hood. You can do it as often. If you're a hypochondriac, particularly, if you're the president of the United States and you're a hypochondriac, you want to make sure everything is in working order. Yeah, run me through one of those things every week. What the hell?
I think he is. He's a germaphobe too, right? I think.
That's what they say.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know whether that's true or not, but I've heard that that's so. So he's mindful of his health. Yeah. He's mindful people talk about his health. I say, give me everybody. I would, honestly. If it didn't cost so much to do it, I would have tests maybe monthly. Are you one of those guys, like if it was just free to you and you had all the medical equipment available to you that you could, would you like to regularly have a look under the hood, or are you a guy that's like annual's fine, if even that?
If I had the means, I guess 2 a year. I'd do 2 a year if I had the if I were able to. I think that's sufficient.
2 a year.
Yeah.
Yeah. I don't know. It just seems to me at 79, like it's not that extraordinary to me that you'd have an MRI.
No.
Like I'm 48 and I'd have an MRI today if somebody offered it to me.
Yeah.
It's just, it takes time for normal people to go get an MRI, and there's costs involved, generally speaking.
I mean, Joe Biden most likely had cancer through his entire presidency, and they're worried about Trump's MRI at 79.
Yeah. Which, again, speaks to the problem with medicine in this country. If it ran the way it should, you should be able to get an MRI like you can buy a television. That's the way it should be, but for some reason it's not. You should be able to go to Fast Eddie's MRI Emporium if you want, and if you don't like his price for the MRI, you can go down the street to Chris Stigall's MRI hut and get a cheaper one because he's running a sale this week. That's Fast Eddie, am I right? Is that not the way MRI should be? Now, I know not everything in medicine can work that way, but why can't an MRI or anything else to do with machinery and equipment run that exact same way? You shop for literally every other service except medicine. Right?
That's right. I don't know why it'd be different than any other business.
Well, you need a doctor's referral, or and they've got to go to the hospital because only the hospital has the equipment. It shouldn't be.
And
that's the free market.
As someone who went through all of this all started to me with Obamacare. Before, I didn't have to have a referral. to do everything. I'm not going to say you don't need a referral in certain situations, but every little thing along the way, well, I have to go to the doctor. It's just like, well, I know what's wrong. Yeah, but you need a referral. It's like, yeah, but that's going to cost me another $300.
That's right. In a perfect world, I should go, boy, my shoulder hurts. I think I want an MRI. And there may be people that say, oh, that's a little much, Stigall. I don't care whether you think it's a little much any more than I care if you think I shouldn't buy a $9,000 television. I want it. Give it to me. Here's the cash. Right?
Yes.
There shouldn't be a discussion. And that's the problem. We discuss medicine like it's something some superior should ration. Now, again, if you're talking about physical medicine you're taking, or it takes some toll on your physical person, different. But like a calcium score, or a stress test, or, just hook you up regularly to take a picture of your heart or whatever, or do an MRI. Like, that stuff you don't need 30 people and bureaucrats signing off on tons and tons and hundreds of dollars of, the equipment's expensive, I get it, and maybe even paying the people to run it. There's a cost, I get it. But you have people paying cash for that stuff? Anyway, I didn't mean to spiral off on that thing. I'm just saying, like, Trump having an MRI at age 79 doesn't bother me in the least. I'd probably do one a month if I could do it. Speaking of socialism, there's a guy in New York that's all too proud of it. I was really pondering this morning on the way in. He is running when you hear the news people say, Zoran Mandami, Democratic socialist, running for mayor of New York and doing quite well, that kind of washed over me for the first time this morning, where I really thought, they're saying it out loud. That used to be a pejorative where we would say, they secretly want socialism. Obamacare is really socialism. The government controlling the means of production and doling it out. Borderline communism, probably, if not outright. And they're saying it now. And I've heard some conservatives make the argument, well, let New York walk the plank on Mandami. It is true that of native-born Americans, people born here in the United States and live in New York, Andrew Cuomo is leading by a lot. But New York is now made up of a majority of non-American-born citizens who can vote. And overwhelmingly, non-American citizens who are going to vote in this New York City mayoral election support Mandami, the Islamist. What does that tell you? The re-engineering of the country, at least in New York City, has been a great success. That's what that tells you. And if Democrats get their way, soon to come, other major American cities. Now, interesting that as of Friday, heading into the weekend, poor El Jefe, Hakeem Jeffries, went over there on CNBC and got crossways with Joe Kernan, that guy that everybody loves. He has a huge fan club in this audience, I found out. Joe Kernan, who hosts the morning program over there, I'm told. I don't get to see it. But anyway, he's peppering Hakeem Jeffries about endorsing Cuomo or Mandami in this race. And apparently, as of Friday, Fast Eddie, El Jefe didn't want anything to do with this. And Chuck Schumer doesn't want anything to do with it. They're not weighing in. They have stayed clear. We told you last week the Clinton wing of the party is saying, don't get involved. Stay the hell away from this thing. And El Jefe was being peppered on Friday. Who you endorse? Are you with Mandami? Well, I don't. Today, here's the headline from the New York Times. El Jefe announces support for Mamdani. What does that tell us? In the last 48, 72 hours, El Jefe has gone from, I'm Switzerland, I'm staying out, to I'm with Hakeem. I'm with Mandami. So what does that tell us?
He sees the writing on the wall. He knows where his party is headed, and he's either get on the bus or get left behind. And he's young enough. He's not Chuck Schumer. He's not like 100 and has been in public service for 50 years. He's young enough to say, time for me to get on board.
House Minority Leader El Jefe Hakeem Jeffries has endorsed Democrat Socialist Zoran Mandami in New York City's mayoral race after facing weeks of questions about whether he would back the far-left candidate. Over at Bill Maher's show. Maher, not a fan. Kate Bedingfield, part of the Biden-Obama era, tried her best to defend this Islamist to Bill Maher, who's having none of it, number 68.
And I think that if Mandani wins with a coalition of voters who have been not all that excited about the Democratic Party over the last few years, I think that's a good thing for the Democrats. And I think if you're in a purple district, say you disagree with some of the things that he does and use that to establish your independent cred.
Well, you make it sound like he's a little more mainstream than I think he is. I mean, the issue now that Andrew Cuomo is bringing up in New York is that he is a Ugandan citizen. Uganda is a country where they kill homosexuals.
So somebody who is a dual citizen can't be mayor of New York, or?
I would renounce, if I was the dual citizen with a country whose policy, government policy, was we kill homosexuals, yeah, I would renounce that citizenship. I don't, and he also.
I think that is buying into a fear framework that is not good.
Of killing homosexuals.
It's not good for the country. It's not good for the country.
You shouldn't be afraid of that.
And I think the way that Cuomo is closing out this race and really race baiting and really leaning in on
that's
what
not
if
right.
he were mayor and something like 9/11.
No, you know what? Just because
I don't
it's
think that's
done
good for the country.
I understand, but just because something is done by people in Africa doesn't mean it's always okay.
Well,
but you said race baiting. It has nothing to do with race.
Oh, I'm talking about what Cuomo's doing, suggesting that Mamdani couldn't be a leader in a terror situation if he were mayor of New York and, God forbid, something else like 9/11
Well, he did campaign with a terrorist.
He did say
yeah,
it. Well, but Cuomo
I mean, it's just this is amazing because that woman would be the first in a burqa. Okay, you stupid woman, you. To not have a fundamental understanding of what Islamists are? How stupid is Kate Bedingfield? A white lady? You would be the first to be subjugated. Do you understand, Kate? Darling? I don't think... What are you saying? A dual citizen can't be mayor? No, you twit. He's saying he's not fond of Islamists becoming mayor of the biggest American city in the country, and neither am I, and you sure as hell shouldn't be, lady. Gays and chicks, listen up. This thing on, Islamists don't like you. We fellas are going to be just fine. God, how stupid do you have to be? Ushering in your own suicide. This is the Stigall Show. It's just so frustrating, you know, reading from the New York Times this morning. Mamdani and the left's big stars unite before a sea of supporters. As Bernie Sanders and his representative Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez join Mamdani on Sunday at Forest Hill Stadium, a big test for the left still lies ahead, says the Times. Holding his big New York City is not for sale rally in Queens on Sunday, filling Forest Hill Stadium. Zoran Mamdani, Senator Bernie Sanders, AOC, all uniting Sunday in a huge rally in Queens, casting him as his once unlikely candidacy for mayor as a powerful step forward in the Democrats' efforts to push back on Donald Trump. With early voting underway this weekend, Mr. Sanders described the win by Mamdani, a Democrat, as Mr. Trump's worst nightmare, with AOC promising there will be a day after the Trump administration, whatever that means. Mamdani, speaking to a stadium of cheering supporters in Queens, said he would build a city that would offer a rebuke of the Trump agenda. While Trump and billionaires think they have the money to buy this election, we have a movement of the masses. Let us win a city hall that works for those straining to buy groceries. You know, I remember Bernie Sanders being so overwhelmingly popular when Mrs. Clinton was running. I remember people standing in lines to meet and see Bernie Sanders at rallies. Young people seem to really love and gravitate toward Bernie Sanders, and now he's hitching his wagon to Mamdani. Bernie really was the socialist heartbeat of the Democrat Party, and it drives a lot of energy. I get it. You're hearing it, you're seeing it, you're reading it. Their pitch, of course, is let's remake America as Sweden with free health care and free college. Which, by the way, Ed, you just told me that a Swedish politician Elon just posted on X that a Swedish politician was beheaded in the Congo?
Yes, let me find that real quick. Yeah, Swedish politician who fought for equality and open borders, beheaded in the Congo.
Yeah. I wonder if it was by an Islamist. I'll bet. It's just, you know, it's all empty. All this stuff, it's just such empty promises, folks. Exploiting terribly naive people and their hopes, just totally ignoring economic realities. It's a reckless fantasy. We're $32 trillion Really, we're 38 trillion in debt now is the number. It's 38 trillion, and they're proposing another 32 trillion. Sweden has a system, cradle to grave welfare. They have a 25% value-added tax. They have a 57% tax on their top income rate. They have a 20.6% corporate tax. Social Security eats 42% of revenue. Healthcare and education take 27%. Sweden nearly collapsed in the 90s. Slashing spending, privatizing schools and pensions, deregulating markets. They cut the corporate tax from 52% to 20% to stop business from fleeing. The spending cuts and the pro-growth reforms in Sweden, it saved their country, not the tax and spend crap that got them into such trouble, the stuff that Bernie and AOC and Mondami are selling right now. These plans mimic welfare's sheen, just totally ignoring free markets, pushing Medicare for all, free college, a wealth tax on billionaires, 35% corporate rates, a minimum wage jump from $15 to $21, Green New Deal scam garbage, AOC's tax the rich chant, the anti-capitalist rants, the empty slogans, all exploiting the hopes of free everything in a nation of 330 million people. That is 6 times the size of Sweden. That's not compassion. That is sabotage. But of course, it's not new. The left has long misled supporters with this crap. Obamacare, as we were just talking about, promised affordable health care for all, slashed premiums, no penalties for pre-existing conditions. Everything was going to be cheap, right? Family premiums instead spiked 30%. Deductibles hit $5,000. Millions remain uninsured, facing financial ruin. Hugo Chavez said the same thing in Venezuela. Free food, medicine, yet 2,000% inflation down there and starvation. This Swedish fantasy brings us unaffordable debt. $38 trillion in national debt is a crushing burden. Annual deficit spending exceeding revenue, hitting $2 trillion, piling on more. The study out of the Urban Institute says Bernie's Medicare for All alone adds $32 trillion in a decade, driving budget deficits to $5 trillion yearly. In 3 years, national debt could hit $45 trillion, triggering total collapse, hyperinflation, trashed credit ratings, soaring prices. It's been shown. That's the math. It's a disaster waiting to happen if these people are embraced. I didn't see it yesterday. Was Graham back in? Brandon Graham came back to the Eagles. He just came out of retirement and re-signed. Did he play yesterday, Fast Eddie? I was watching a little bit of foot. I was busy. I was taking some family who were in from town around, so I didn't get to watch. But they took care of the Giants last night in their rematch. Yesterday afternoon. Was Graham back in?
He was not. Not because of energy. There's kind of a timeline to kind of launching him forward. Yes.
Well, because Vic Fangio, the defensive coordinator for the Philadelphia Eagles, had said last week, okay, fine, if Brandon Graham wants to come back and participate in our defense, great, but I need to know that he's in shape. It sounded like Fangio was not entirely sure of the plan. Like, great, and he's beloved and all of that, but Fangio was kind of thinking, are we sure the guy knows that he's fit enough to do it? You sit out for a year, you can lose your edge quick if you're an NFL guy, right?
Absolutely. So, yes, the plan is for him. So this is the bye week this week. He was not going to play yesterday, even though he re-signed. Okay. And then he's supposed to be playing in Week 10. So.
All right. 6-2 Eagles. Monday Night Football tonight. Kansas City Chiefs versus the Washington Commanders with a backup quarterback in Kansas City. The Washington Commanders. So Marcus Mariota, I believe, is their backup quarterback in D.C. As you're looking live there at the Salem News Channel of the shut down Washington, D.C. Now approaching a month, or this is the month. Does this week make a month? I think it is. Daniel Turner is with us. We like talking to Daniel. He's the founder and executive director of Power of the Future. Just a good friend. It's been a while. We haven't caught up in a bit. Daniel, good to see you. How's the shutdown treating you?
The shutdown's been a lot easier than what you just casually passed over of taking care of the Giants last night. So as a Giants fan, as a New York sports fan, It's been a rough decade. You know, I have a sheep farm here in rural Virginia, Chris. If I put 5 pregnant ewes as the Giants O-line, I think they would do a better job. Just put some grain down on the grass and those girls aren't budging. And then maybe our quarterback can have a bit of a pocket.
I'll tell you, that kid, though, that's a promising future. Are Giants fans excited about that kid? Dart, right? That's his name?
Giants fans aren't excited about anything. Yes.
No.
Yeah, you know, but I mean, for so long we've been looking forward to, like, you know, just go back last year. Once we get DJ Jones, the future is bright. Daniel Jones, right? We're always looking forward. We're always looking to the future, and we just deal with the current. And that's kind of, you know, a good example of the Democrat Party writ large. Like, vote for us, and the future's going to be great. Yeah, but it stinks right now. Obamacare stinks. Energy prices stink. Beef prices stink. Mamdani is going to stink. It's like, yes, but trust me, the future is going to be amazing. You just have to suffer more.
I just heard a commentator this morning talking about they don't know who they are, and they'll openly say we don't know who we want to be. There's clearly a struggle heading into the weekend. The minority leader in the House, Hakeem Jeffries, Friday would not commit to endorsing Mamdani. By yesterday, he did. So it's like they don't know who they want to be. It's like, do we try to tack a little center? Do we go more Fetterman-ish? Or do we just go all in Islamist, Marxist, fascist socialism? And I don't know. I mean, like, the excitement is clearly behind the latter.
Yeah, and if you're Democrat Party leadership, you have to go with where the enthusiasm is and the excitement is. And even though all the demographics data shows young people are becoming more conservative, right? They're also becoming more religious. Those who are still on the left are becoming harder left. And so if you're a Democrat Party operative, if you're just a pure political maneuver and mover and shaker, you have to go with where the enthusiasm is. And the enthusiasm is with the Democrat socialists. I don't see a party leader. It's certainly not my 2 senators from Virginia. It's not, you know, back in the day, they would have looked to someone like Bob Casey if he ever got out of bed. But where are these Democrat moderates who are like, no, we're not the party of socialism. We're not the party of Sharia law. We're not the party of free everything. Those folks are all out to sleep.
Fast Eddie and I were talking about this during the break, and we've come to the conclusion that it is liberal white women that will end up slitting our throats as a country. White women. And sure enough, Daniel Turner, look no further than the New York Post. No King's protests composed mostly of educated white women in their 40s. In fact, Bill Maher, over the weekend, who continues to be a source of actual common sense these days, believe it or not, Bill Maher noticed, as we did when those stupid protests were going on, wasn't a whole lot of color in these No Kings rallies. Daniel, take a listen to number 69 here.
That is basically a valid point to make about the whole King thing. Here's a question that I saw, did not realize until it hit the news a lot, was that it was very white. What do you make of that? That the guy in Baltimore, the paper there said, we struggled our photographer to find a picture of black people in this march. I'm okay with that. I didn't go, and I feel like, well, you talk.
Well, we had a meeting.
Yeah, go ahead. Yes.
And let's just say it didn't go too well for white folks, that's all.
Yeah, I mean, pretty good line from Michael Steele there, Daniel Turner. We had a meeting, of course, referring to the fact that he is black. And, of course, he doesn't speak for all black people. I appreciate the line. But the point is, it is legitimate to say people of color were not in that thing. No King's rally. Again, inflatable chickens, according to demographic research, made up of educated white women in their 40s. What we're seeing is a kind of group therapy playing out in the streets, told one psychotherapist. The protests drawing thousands to the nation's capital and similar rallies across the country aimed at denouncing Donald Trump. Mostly white, middle-aged ladies, Daniel.
Yeah, well, it's not surprising because this is every other movement of the last couple of years, whether it was the climate movement or Occupy Wall Street. It's the same motivating factors. It's the same faux outrage and feigned indignation. And that's a luxury, right? If you have the ability to, on a Saturday, walk around with a sign, if you have the ability to go to the store and buy some cardboard and markers and glitter and put on a costume, most of us have to work, right? So maybe the question is, are educated white women the most privileged class in America? Because, you know, they don't have to take their car to the shop because probably their husband or their boyfriend or their husband's boyfriend brought the car to the shop for them, right? They don't have to worry about the lawn. They don't have to worry about, you know, exactly. So who has the luxury? And it is very similar to the climate protests. Who has the luxury to stand outside an art museum, you know, and pour Campbell's soup over yourself and protest is someone who doesn't have a real job, isn't worried about income, isn't worried about anything else. And that's a lot of privilege. We talk about the word privilege. Nothing is more privileged than the climate change or the No Kings protester.
The piece you wrote at the Federalist, I want to call people's attention to Daniel Turner, who, again, by the way, is the founder and executive director of Power the Future. You can follow Daniel on X at Daniel Turner PTF, Power the Future, at Daniel Turner PTF. You wrote a piece called Democrats Are to Blame for Rising Healthcare and Energy Prices. We were just talking about, you know, November 1st, this Obamacare subsidy stuff has got a lot of people freaked out. And I know it sounds like an ad. I don't mean to make it sound like an ad. I mean it as a genuine help. I have a great friend and sponsor here who's a health insurance broker, and there are hundreds of private sector health insurance companies who can give you a far better rate than what you're getting on this supposedly affordable care plan, Daniel.
Yeah. Yeah, the point of this op-ed was to take two subjects, which are healthcare and energy, and show how they have similarities as it relates to the shutdown. And the similarity is that in both of these areas, Democrats exclusively passed awful legislation, not a Republican vote, shoved it down the throats of the American people. And the result of terrible legislation is terrible policy. So Obamacare has needed consistent government subsidies and backstops. Wind and solar need consistent government subsidies and backstops. And the Trump administration and congressional senators or congressional Republicans are saying, we're kind of done with this, right? We're not paying for these bad policies in perpetuity. So it is true that prices will go up, but it is not honest. The reason why prices are going up is because these are bad pieces of legislation that need to be repealed. And you know, I've likened it to having a lemonade stand as a kid, where mom and dad gave you the lemonade and the stand and the sign and the chair and the table and the cups. And then grandma goes around and gives everybody money and says, hey, go buy my idiot grandson's lemonade, right? And you go home and say, wow, I was really successful. I sold lemonade all day. But did you, right? Did you? Or did this family subsidize it? That's Obamacare in a nutshell. It is terrible legislation that the government is paying you to convince you that it actually is good. And that has to stop.
The New York Times rolled out this morning with, I'm noting this is the week, Daniel. This is the week that the media will start rolling out aggressively with the crying government employee who can't feed his or her family. Those stories will start this week in earnest aggressively. Yeah. So get ready. Everybody buckle in. The crying, weeping government employee who can't pay the bills stories are coming like a fire hydrant this week. And so when those hit, will that start to eat away at President Trump and Republicans' position here? They are the party in power, even though they are not the ones driving this shutdown.
I could easily see a lot of moderate R's start to begin to cave. However, what do you cave towards? They are already voting open the government. So how are you going to sway their vote? Are you going to say, well, now I'll vote to keep it closed? So in this sense, the position the Republicans are in, normally it's the Republicans who are voting for the shutdown because they want something done. Here, the Republicans are saying, no, we'll open government. You just have to give us the votes. So I don't know if it will have the same effect. It will definitely make Republicans or make all legislators uncomfortable, as those ads are meant to do. You know who it won't make uncomfortable, though, are the American people. And I put this on my social media account. I even joked how, you know, some idiot beta Democrat's going to crop it next time I testify before Congress and hold it as a giant poster. That's what always happens to me when I testify before Congress. And then that congressman screams for 5 minutes about how bad of a person I am. And then they run out the room. I yield my time and they run out. But on my Twitter account, I put, like, this is why I want these programs to end. You see these people making TikTok reels saying, You better give me my government subsidies. And they have jewelry and highlights and manicures, and they're on an iPhone and they're in a car. I'm tired of being your ATM. I'm sorry about childhood hunger, and I'm sorry about poverty, but I am sick and damn tired of paying for everybody. And if 40 million Americans need food stamps, then we have a larger problem to address, because I'm no longer paying for 40 million Americans to have a better lifestyle. Like, I have to flip and work. I didn't go to the No Kings protest because I had a job, right? You have to work. What time do you get up in the morning, Chris Stigall, to work?
Yeah.
When the hell will we get any of the subsidies? Yeah.
Yeah.
So you know what?
Yeah.
The sob story is going to end. It's going to end because I'm tired of being an ATM.
I think, I hope. I mean, you see this rally Sunday, yesterday, in your beloved New York, and one wonders where it's going. But it's notable. Again, it's worth pointing out, Daniel, and I appreciate your time today. Most of the people that are supporting Mamdani are non-Native American citizens. They came from other places. Wow. So that's for real. Thank you, Daniel. Great to talk to you again, my friend. Hey, good morning, Erie, Pennsylvania. Listening on WZTE 103.3. We're looking at you, Erie, on our camera, our City View camera there in Erie, Pennsylvania, on the Salem News Channel. Thanks for watching. Grab the app if you don't have it. It's free, and you can watch along and listen, however you prefer. The podcast, by the way, too, subscribe to that and never miss it. People are catching the show on YouTube as well. It's another great place to do it if you'd like. All right, so lots of ways to catch it. Hope that you will, however you want. 855-STIGAL is how you reach us today. The bottom line, as Daniel and I were talking, the simple math in the future is Social Security's fund at present, without any action, collapses in 2032. Medicare collapses by 2031. It's just years away. And these lunatics like Mamdani and Bernie and AOC, they'll end them sooner if they get their way, abandoning seniors entirely. This is the Marxist playbook. Tank the economy, crush business, usher in central control and command. This is not sweeping. It's not just trading communism for capitalism or capitalism for communism. These people are clueless. They're untested. They're selling chaos. I mean, these elections are going to have real consequences. And I would just say that all of these young people, Bernie's supporters, they deserve better leaders who understand at least basic math and don't play Pied Piper with the economy. You know, I think it's why a lot of young people, frankly, are gravitating toward sports betting right now, which there's a Rolling Stone piece that I would recommend to you. There's a new casino in everyone's pocket. For some young men, it's a near fatal gamble. I think that this promise of free everything from people on the hard left appeals to young people. Fast money appeals to young people. Oddly, interestingly, do you know who it most appeals to? Affluent young men and women. Fast Eddie, isn't that interesting? Affluent young people are the ones that most gravitate, statistically it is said, they're the ones that most gravitate toward the quick buck action on sports betting, and they most gravitate toward this socialism, Marxism crap from the Mamdanis and the Bernies.
Absolutely. Luigi Mangione was a very affluent person, and he took the life of a healthcare CEO because, healthcare costs.
So what does that mean? Let's talk about that for a minute. Let's play armchair psychologist. What does it mean when affluent young people are driven to murderous rage of healthcare CEOs? They've got everything in the world they need and want, and they feel they must murder a healthcare CEO, or they must gamble for the quick buck, or they must sign on to leaders that will give away everything for free. Is it because they don't know the meaning of work and what things cost, and they feel, what, guilt? Is it guilt?
They certainly
boredom
have the most time to think that your ideology is right. So the danger of the progressive left is that they believe they're correct and will do anything by any means necessary to get their point across because they, on their minds, are on the side of good.
I was too busy. I know you were too. I came from a working class family, as I know you did. I think most Americans do. So my story is not unique, but I remember since 16, in order to have spending money and to be able to pay for gas in the car I think my grandparents gave me as my first car, one of their old cars. If I wanted any walking around money or to function starting at 16, I started bussing tables at a buffet. And I worked steadily throughout school, Right until I graduated from college, I continued to work. I never didn't work. I didn't have time, Ed, to sit around and think about politics, to be perfectly honest with you. I was too busy working and hopefully finding a girlfriend, trying to have fun in there if I could. Politics was not my thing. So young people now being driven to murderous rages and rallies for socialists. I don't know how that evolved, but I would assume that's just a lot of people of affluence that are bored. Social media, screens, I guess we could get into. Like, I don't know what drives a young person, as you say, to Mangione, kill, or to embrace socialism the way they do, but I assume it's just because they have so much. They're just spoiled rotten. We've never seen people with so much, young people.
This would be, like you and I did not have time on our hands. Like, same. I worked at McDonald's because I had to pay for insurance and gas for my 87 Bonneville back in 03. Yeah. I wasn't thinking, the reason I got my driver's license was, because I met a girl out in the suburbs, and I'm like, I got to drive to her.
So, ironically, the standard of living raised, and more of us were making more money, and now we're having kids. My generation's had kids, the Gen X kids. So, our standard of living has raised, and a lot of younger people, maybe kids from Gen X, the millennials or whatever, they don't need for as much. They don't struggle as badly. Maybe they have more.
I guess not. I guess hope and change means more in your pocket off to start. So, do you really need to work as hard?
So capitalism and hard work, the booming 90s, gave birth to an era where younger people just have everything they need, and they got a phone in their pocket, and they don't like. And by the way, you talk to people that employ entry-level work, at a McDonald's or anywhere else, you will universally, if you talk to anybody that hires what is typically considered like summertime work or kids, bus boys, people working at ice cream stands, pizza places, whatever, all of them will tell you, I can't get kids to work anymore. They don't like to work. They don't want to work. Can't find them. Haven't you heard that, Ed?
Absolutely.
I hear it from everybody that employs people at small businesses.
Anybody that I've had interns in the past, and it's amazing. This generation, not to sound like an old man waving my fist, but it's different. Times have changed.
Yeah. So, and they're the ones. They're the ones ushering this in. It's bonkers. I don't know. Little armchair psychology there. MyPillow is excited to announce they're having their biggest 3-in-1 sale ever with a limited edition product, a back-in-stock special, and a closeout deal you're not going to find anywhere else. MyPillow bed sheets, only $29.88, any color, any style, and any size, even the king size. Regularly priced at $119.98, now only $29.88. Once they're gone, though, they're gone for good. My towels are finally back in stock, but not for long. Get a 6-piece My Towel set, regularly priced at $69.98, now only $39.98. And for the first time, and the only time, get their limited edition premium My Pillows made with Giza cotton and a designer gusset. Queens starting at $17.98, kings at $19.98, and for a limited time, when you order over $100, you'll receive free shipping plus $100 in free digital gifts. 800-932-5056, promo code Chris, or use that promo code at mypillow.com, promo code Chris.
You're tougher than all of them.
Let's bring in Chris Stigall.
He is Chris Stigall. Chris Stigall.
You have a great show. You have a highly rated show, too, by the way.
Please welcome Chris Stigall.
This is the Chris Stigall Show.
I went to bed early last night. I didn't get to see it. Packers over the Steelers last night, 35-25. Hey, good morning, Chicago. Bears fans probably pleased with that development. I'm kidding. No, I know you're not. Very bitter. That's a rivalry you may not know much about, Fast Eddie. Bears and Packers.
Yeah.
No love lost there, my friend. They feel about them the way you feel about the Cowboys.
Yeah, no, it's pretty aggressive. I know that.
Who, by the way, got throttled yesterday, didn't they? 44-24. The Broncos over the Cowboys, 44-24. Oof. That's nasty. All right, anyway, Chicago, looking at you this morning on AM 560, The Answer. Thanks for listening. Thanks for watching on the Salem News Channel. Thrilled to have you along. Hope your weekend was a fantastic one. Our telephone number is 855-STIGAL. Got a new edition of the Harumph Society coming out today. I get into this Mandami stuff a little bit, and kind of the math that I've been talking about, the Bernie Sanders math, the sheer weight of what's being proposed here and how it would collapse the economy. Nobody understands it better than our friend E.J. Antoni, chief economist at the Heritage Foundation. he's seen this stuff like roaring like a freight train coming down the tracks. So it just exacerbates an already huge problem. And yet we're seeing people gravitating toward it. Hey, EJ, good to have you back, my friend. Good morning.
Hey, good to be back, Chris. Thank you for having me again.
So I'll get into a little bit of your history, your immediate past here in just a little bit. But before we do that, I've got to ask you your thoughts on this Mondami thing. I assume you share my point of view. This cradle-to-grave stuff, this Swedish-style proposition that's now being introduced here, much like transgender surgeries, didn't work out well in Europe, and they stopped doing it. Sweden also stopped doing what guys like Mondami are proposing, right?
Well, exactly, Chris. And basically, if you look at literally the entirety of his agenda, and I know that this may sound like an exaggeration, but it's truly not. If you look at every point of his agenda, these are all things that have been tried before and have literally all failed. And not just in places like New York, but around the globe. And it's amazing that kind of agenda, that kind of philosophy, it just, I guess, sounds so seductive that, for example, you can get something for nothing, that somebody else can pay for all of your stuff, all of your wants and needs, et cetera. Again, it just sounds so seductive that people keep falling for it. I guess there's just something about human nature that inclines us to these things, right? Kind of like with alcoholism. You know, if you drink too much, you will be hungover the next day. And yet, how many people do that and the next day say, oh, what was I thinking, right? And so, if we look at, it doesn't really matter what part of his agenda you want to look at, whether it's the social issues like, sterilizing children and some of these terrible things and giving them all these different chemicals when they're very, very young or in puberty to allegedly change their sex, which obviously is impossible, or even if it's economic issues, like we're just going to tax the you-know-what out of the rich. I'm sorry, New York has been doing that for how long now? And every time they double down and raise taxes, it just makes the problems that much worse. Tax revenue doesn't go up, tax revenue goes down, and the rich don't go into New York, they leave New York. It's what has been happening, and it's what will continue to happen, only faster if they double down on this agenda by voting for this communist, which sadly looks like is exactly what's going to happen.
And to see significant members of the Democrat Party now embrace it. Kathy Hochul, the governor of New York, the minority leader in the House of Representatives, Hakeem Jeffries, now officially throwing in behind him. So the Democrats are now falling in line with this and the enthusiasm for him and Bernie and AOC. So they're not, I guess they're left with no choice. They can't moderate. They don't think that this is the best way they can beat Republicans. It's just to go hardcore the other way. Where do you think the country is right now?
Not there, certainly. I think the vast majority of Americans would not support that agenda. And we can see that, I think, Chris, if we look at the last election, presidential election, that is, where Trump wins not only the electoral vote, but the popular vote, something a Republican hasn't done in decades, right? He wins every single swing state. These ideas are deeply unpopular with the majority of the American electorate. That's not to say everybody. Sadly, there are plenty of folks. Well, we saw this in the wake of our friend Charlie Kirk being assassinated, right? How many of these crazy left wingers there are in the country who not only support a communist agenda, but I mean these are true maniacs. They want us dead.
Again, it bears repeating that the support that Mondami enjoys are from foreign-born entities. Those that were born in the United States on the Democrat side support Cuomo. That is a notable fact in the studies of who's voting for this guy. So immigration policy, hello, does that matter now? Bringing in people that come from places that embrace this kind of nonsense?
It's a great point. And when you look, Chris, at the number of people in New York who aren't even native-born Americans, I mean, it truly is scary. Right, how we have taken what was at one point, I guess you could say, probably the quintessential American city, and we have de-Americanized it in a lot of ways. We have just imported the third world into New York City. And sadly, it's not just a matter of bringing in certain people from certain places around the world. That actually has nothing to do with it. It's rather the kinds of people you're bringing in from those places. We see this, for example, and we have seen it for literally decades with Chinese immigrants. For a very long time, Chinese immigrants coming into this country, you could very reliably predict their socioeconomic success that they would have after coming here based on what province of China they came from. In other words, it wasn't simply that you could just look at anyone from China in the same block, right? Certain people from certain regions of China came here with a strong work ethic, with a strong educational background, and other people from other areas of China had exactly the opposite. And the latter just stayed in poverty essentially their whole lives, and the former really doubled down on the success that they already had in their homeland and made themselves and the country here better off as a result.
E.J. Antoni with us, chief economist at the Heritage Foundation. What do you make of the inflation report? CNBC headline, cooler than expected U.S. consumer inflation adds to market cheer. Are you feeling cheerful with that report, E.J.?
Oh, certainly, Chris, for a couple of reasons. First was the obvious, right? The fact that the headline and the core numbers both came in, cooler than expected. So we did not get quite as hot a print as a lot of Wall Street economists were estimating. Now, for those of us who follow, some of the alternative metrics like Trueflation, for example, the number came in right on the money. So that was good to see. The other really positive development, though, was the fact that the number one driver of inflation in the month of September, Chris, was gas prices. Now, why is that good? Because in the first 3 weeks of October, all of the increases in gas prices reversed, and the prices are now back down to where they were the month before. In other words, what put upward pressure on inflation in September is now going to put downward pressure on the index for the month of October. Unfortunately, we're probably not going to get an October inflation report because the government shutdown. We're not actually sending out anybody to go collect those prices. However, again, it is really good news to see that the number one driver of inflation in September has not only stopped increasing, but has reversed and has now actually gone down.
I'm not going to spend a ton of time with this. I've only got a couple of minutes, but I'm going to talk about the elephant in the room only because, I made a bit of a deal about it. You've been a friend of ours for a long time, and we love you. But the nature of politics is an ugly beast, and we know our friend Steve Moore, our mutual friend. He was once chosen to go join the Fed board and was savaged for having done so and withdrew his name ultimately. You were chosen by President Trump to head Bureau of Labor Statistics. Your nomination withdrawn. Would you like to speak to that, whatever you have to say about it?
Oh, sure, Chris. Yeah, unfortunately, even though a lot of the reforms that I've been talking about for several years now are still badly needed at BLS, a lot of senators, just the Bureau of Labor Statistics, a lot of senators just weren't even interested in having a conversation at all, which was unfortunate. And that really started literally the hours after the nomination had been announced. And the result of that is that if you can't even get a meeting with senators, you're not going to be able to then get to the next step, which is a hearing, and then the final step, which is a vote for the full Senate voting on your confirmation. And so at that point, there was just literally no way we could even move the nomination forward, and it didn't make sense to just stay there in limbo. So we had to withdraw it.
To be clear, this is, Democrat opposition is one thing, but there were Republicans who objected to you. And you're the chief economist at Heritage, for heaven's sakes. You're a brilliant guy. So this tells us that inside the Republican Party, there's objection to reforms and a point of view that you have.
Oh, certainly, Chris. Absolutely. And again, it's one thing if you disagree with somebody. I get it. I disagree with a lot of people. I even disagree with myself sometimes. If you ask me my opinions on certain things today, they'll be very different than what I said, a week ago or a year ago or 10 years ago, whatever. So I get it. But at least, I don't know, maybe this is too far, but at least be adult enough to sit down and have a conversation. And if ultimately I'm not somebody that you want to support for the position, that's fine. Just tell me that so we can move on. But it certainly seemed, I don't know if immature is the right word, but it certainly seemed like not good governance, at least, to not even, for example, be willing to sit down and have a conversation face to face.
Well, selfishly, I and this audience are thrilled to continue to be able to lean on your wisdom and your brilliance, and I know the Heritage Foundation is too. I'm sorry it ended that way. The country would have been better off with you. Sorry that we have some very short-sighted and petulant and petty Republican senators on the Hill. But, EJ, we love you. You're a great friend and a scholar, and we hope you'll come back as often as you possibly can, my friend.
Chris, you're too kind. Thank you so much for having me. And seriously, I would love to do it again soon.
My colleague Mike Gallagher is on his way to Israel this afternoon, and he'll be doing some reports for us from there. We're really looking forward to his on-the-ground insights. It reminds me to tell you that on behalf of the International Fellowship of Christians and Jews, our campaign with them ends this Friday, and we are so grateful that so many of you have been so generous in stepping up to support IFCJ all this month. For those of you who still want to join us, by the way, final 5 days of this campaign start today. Yael Eckstein, the president of the fellowship, tells us why your donation will support their really unique mission.
The International Fellowship of Christians and Jews is both the largest nonprofit in Israel, the most effective nonprofit in Israel, and we also come with the added message, Christians around the world stand with you. And on top of distributing that life-saving aid, the message of the silenced majority of Christians who love Israel, yet their voice is not getting out, we are getting that voice out on your behalf.
Now, look, you can tell the people of Israel you're with them by supporting the fellowship today. There is a banner at the top of my website, chrisstigall.com. Make your generous gift today of any amount when you click on that banner. There's also a number you can call. Here it comes. Grab a pen if you want to jot it down. 800-982-8811. Again, a gift of any kind is so appreciated by the folks at IFCJ. We love partnering with them. We believe in their mission and the work they do. As a Christian, I'm proud to partner and support with the IFCJ folks. 800-982-8811. 800-982-8811. Or go to chrisstigall.com, click the banner at the top of my page, and give that way if you wish. You know, it's interesting. Over the last couple of days, I look at the Wall Street Journal, and I see a headline by Peggy Noonan, who, you know, wrote speeches for Ronald Reagan and has written a couple of brilliant books, and in many ways I admire her, but in other ways she is the classic white wine spritzer, cologne and cufflink, nose in the air, Thurston and Lovey Howell Republican type, who, you know, is somewhat tacitly supportive of Donald Trump, but now finds him gauche again. She's very concerned. She's deeply concerned. From the military to the Justice Department to the East Wing, there's reason to wonder and worry. Her editorial is A Republic, but can we keep it? The entire column is a lament about Donald Trump and his business dealings and his refurbishing of the East Wing of the White House building, the ballroom, and Pete Hegseth insisting that our generals shouldn't be fat. A republic, but can we keep it? Laments Peggy at the Wall Street Journal. Meanwhile, at the Washington Times, here's something sane. You see, people like Peggy Noonan have all the money and time and white wine that they need to write stupid fluff pieces like that. I'm very concerned about the East Wing and upsetting our military. That's her day. Meanwhile, what should you be really worried about? This piece by Don Feder at the Washington Times headlined, Samuel Huntington's Clash of Civilization reaches America's shores. From London to New York, authors warning about Islam's bloody borders unfold in real time. Hello? So Peggy, a republic, if we can keep it. Oh, did you see what Donald Trump... Did you see what he did to the East Wing? Did you hear how Pete Hegseth spoke to... Meanwhile, there's an effing Islamist about to run the city you live in, you dingbat. The hell is wrong with people, Eddie? What is with these stupid women? They're just, I'm sorry, they're women and they're dingbats. Just blind, moronic, dingbat white ladies who have nothing better to do with their day than talk about... I mean, Islamists are about to run New York, for God's sakes. These are people that want to cover women head to toe with slits for eyes. You're second class at best, girls. Do you hear me? Oh, did you see what he's doing to the East Wing? Samuel Huntington's classic, The Clash of Civilizations and the Reckoning of Remaking of World Order, first published in 1996, may be the most insightful book written about terrorism's war on the West because it gets to the heart of the conflict. And he goes on to cite London and their Muslim mayor since 1997. Manchester had banned Israeli fans from an upcoming soccer match. In Britain, they banned the targets of violence, not those inciting violence, and on, and now he laments Mondami becoming part of it. Looking live in Tokyo, Japan this morning on the Salem News Channel. We even have cameras mounted internationally now. Our network expanding by leaps and bounds every day, and on great radio stations, hundreds of them all over the country. The radio landscape is constantly expanding too, and you can find us, of course, online at the Salem News Channel app, which is free to you to listen or watch. Hope that you do. Just quickly, because I want to get to Erin and her take on this, but this piece in the Washington Times, I was so shocked, I guess, at the two ways in which people who are not of the left view the United States today. One, at the Wall Street Journal, Peggy Noonan. A republic, but can we keep it? From the military and the Justice Department to the East Wing, there's reason to wonder and worry. Peggy is upset with the East Wing being renovated. Peggy is upset with Pete Hegseth making sure our military isn't fat. This upsets Peggy. She thinks that's the threat to the republic. Over at the Washington Times, a gentleman named Don Feder wrote a piece headlined Samuel Huntington's Clash of Civilizations Reaches America's Shores, and he writes about the Clash of Civilizations and the remaking of the world order, first published in 1996, may be the most insightful book written about terrorism's war on the West, because it gets to the heart of the conflict. He then lays out how it has spread across Europe. This encroachment of Islamism has spread across Europe and is now coming here in the form of a mayoral race in New York City. He concludes it this way. By Islam's bloody borders, Mr. Huntington meant that wherever significant Muslim populations come into contact with infidels, conflict ensues. Almost 30 years after the publication of the Clash of Civilizations, our leaders are still unable or unwilling to connect the dots, to see the relationship between terrorism in Israel, strife in Britain, Europe's growing Muslim population, and the quaint customs it brings with us, like raping infidel women. A mayoral race in New York and Rome making obeisance to Mecca. In the 1930s, Adolf Hitler's greatest strength was Europe's inability to take him seriously. During the Cold War, the Soviet Union was aided by the inability of liberals to see a worldwide conspiracy. Today, militant Islam advances by the refusal of many in the West to see the big picture. It's not just a terrorist attack here and a mayoral campaign there. It's a blueprint for global conquest that originated on the Arabian Peninsula 1,500 years ago. Last week, a Gaza resident who had entered the U.S. illegally, alleged to be involved in the October 7th massacre, was arrested in Lafayette, Louisiana. Why? He was rumored to be on his way to New York to vote in the mayoral election. Civilizations are clashing everywhere, and the West, says Mr. Feder, is losing. Pretty grim at the Washington Times. Meanwhile, Peggy Noonan is fluffing her scarf because the East Wing is being... Aaron McGuire, I bring you in here. This is not the left we're debating. This is the right. Peggy Noonan, a former Reagan speechwriter, her biggest concern is what Donald Trump's doing to the White House. I think Mr. Feder has the proper... on fire concern for all of us right now. Good morning.
Good morning. I think that unfortunately Peggy Noonan has gotten a little bit swept up in this East Wing liberal lunacy freakout. The president is delivering the golden era of America, and you won't see that anywhere richer than actually at this White House ballroom. It's just one microcosm of how Donald Trump is unapologetically leading this nation, and I would argue is likely the strongest president we have ever had when it comes to executive branch authority and work that this president is doing. And on the other hand, regarding Zoran Mandami and the actual threats our nation faces when a socialist is about to take over New York City, there is an unprecedented level of foreign interest in Zoran Mandami's race. And you can look at that twofold here. One is on TikTok. There is a report out from a third party that indicates that TikTok could be putting their thumb on the scale to support Zoran over Cuomo. Now, don't get me wrong, Cuomo's terrible. And Zoran, as of his own accord, run a much more digitally focused online campaign that could make up some of the difference. But this is a Chinese-backed CCP, Chinese Communist Party aligned app that is making sure that people are seeing more of Zoran than they are of Cuomo. And secondly, there has been a level of interest in foreign donations, which are illegal to accept, into Zoran's campaign. Tens of thousands of dollars of illegal foreign money that has come in and not yet been fully reimbursed. As a political person, it's not often you see foreign money enter into campaigns. But to see it at such a level for Zoran and him not immediately return it, that's a problem as well. There's a lot of foreign interest and a lot of foreign support for Zoran's race. And why is that? Because this is the fever dream Democrats have wanted for over a decade coming to reality. A real-life socialist who is on camera and has said previously that he came to the United States from Uganda to make this nation more like his own. That is the threat to democracy. That is the worry Americans should be staring down of what we are looking at in New York, not the East Wing, not the president making sure that there's opportunity for diplomacy in a space that works for every president moving forward. That's not the threat to democracy. The threat to democracy is on our shores right now with a socialist about to take the helm in New York City.
Aaron McGuire, Republican strategist who's worked at high levels, still works at very high levels, helping statewide national campaigns, and you work with a team of people I know who have done it at high levels for a long time. As you look at politics in 2025, are you alarmed or still confident in most voters across the country that they will reject the AOC, Bernie Sanders, Mandami, now Hakeem Jeffries, Kathy Hochul? I mean, mainstream Democrats, if there's such a thing, are now officially, as of this weekend, throwing in with this. And so it makes one wonder. We see it's non-native born Americans, those who have immigrated and may not even be legal. I think the illegals can vote in New York. They're the ones that are voting for Mandami. Apparently, those who are native born Americans are voting Cuomo in New York. But my broader question is this a growing problem as you navigate messaging in campaigns? Is the enthusiasm and the fevered pitch for this crazy socialism, Aaron? I mean, is this becoming an issue that conservatives have to battle in the future?
This is an issue that conservatives will have to battle, and that's because of how the electorate has changed so dramatically under President Trump. President Trump truly has made the Republican Party a big tent party. He has brought in new voters, first-time voters, those that we call in the political game lower propensity voters. And to get them out again takes more effort. It takes enthusiasm. And since we are in an off-year cycle right now without President Trump at the top of the ticket because he dynamically alters how people turn out, that is going to be a problem that Republicans have to continue to address going into the future. Now, Mandami in New York, we know that is a deep blue Manhattan area. We know New York City, the likelihood of that going Republican would have been very slim, even in the best case circumstances. But this radical left that's cozying up to socialists, Kathy Hochul right now has been on stage with a socialist, and she is now going into 2026 having to try to defend her governorship. That is where Republicans have the opportunity, especially in bluer states like New York, where we think that Elise Stefanik, the congresswoman, is going to run against Kathy Hochul. She has the runway now to reverse that momentum, so that momentum that is surging Mandami so strongly in the polls, that momentum, she can use that in reverse to say we reject this across the state of New York going into the next midterms. And if you look at a state like Maine, where they now have a man who has covered up a Nazi tattoo, who is surging in the polls after the Nazi tattoo came out, is now ahead of the Democrat governor in Maine running for that U.S. Senate primary. This is who Democrats are. When they show you the Nazi tattoo, when they show you the socialists, you have to believe that is the core of their party, because both of those candidates are unapologetically backed by Bernie Sanders.
Yeah, and I guess, ultimately the broader question is, when Hakeem Jeffries goes from Friday, where he's pressed, do you back Mondami, to Sunday, where he comes out and enthusiastically does so, what does that tell you? What has happened in 48 hours that Hakeem Jeffries was kind of tortured and not doing it, and then all of a sudden says, okay, I'm in? What happened there politically, do you think?
A lot of political pressure has come in. Democrats are very good behind the scenes. I don't know what kind of torture devices they use, but getting their members back in line. And it's clear the base, the movement, the strength of the Democrat Party comes from socialism. It comes from communism. It comes from the radical left that believes that the government should dictate how you live your life. Zoran Mondami believes and supports in confiscation of personal private property. That means in New York, if he decided, he could take your house and then he could make it into a government-run grocery store and have homeless people riding all over the buses because they will be free. This is a danger to our nation, and it's one that hopefully the pendulum swings back around on, where we can get good conservative electable members into these races and into these seats so that we can start winning and beating back the tide. Because politically, Hakeem wouldn't have done it if it wasn't what the base forced him to do.
Aaron McGuire, Republican strategist with us. Big development this morning, just this morning, I read on X anyway. I haven't actually seen this for myself, so I'm cautious, but I think this comes from an accurate source. The American Federation of Government Employees union boss just came out this morning, according to one particular post that I'm reading on X, and said, stand by here, quote, "It's time to pass a clean, continuing resolution and end this shutdown today. No half measures and no gamesmanship." So again, this is the head of the American Federation of Government Employees president. It's time to pass a clean CR and end this shutdown today. No half measures, no gamesmanship. That's a message to Democrats, is it not, Aaron?
It is a message to Democrats. Democrats are the ones who have shut down the government. And here in Virginia, where I live, that is hundreds of thousands of people who have not been receiving their paychecks because of the political gamesmanship of Democrats. And I think I've said this before, but we are staring down a Virginia gubernatorial, attorney general, and lieutenant governor races right now. And Democrats, I absolutely have to believe, part of the political calculus here of keeping the government closed, as they have admitted of their own accord on camera, is to put some pain pressure on voters, on Americans, to say, sorry, the government shut. Yeah, it's our fault, but they want to make it worse for you. And in Virginia, that is hundreds of thousands of people. And so, yes, the government should have been open a long time ago. These political games benefit nobody, but Democrats have decided taking the American people's work hostage is more important than doing the American people's work.
I tell you, this government union boss speaking out and going after Democrats, that's a huge development. That tells me we might have a break this week. Aaron McGuire, always great to catch up with you on a Monday. Congrats on your Bills again. We'll talk next week.
Big win. Go Bills.
I can't get over it. There is nothing more striking to me than people inside Republican or conservative circles still writing like Peggy Noonan, "A republic, but can we keep it? From the military and Justice Department to the East Wing, there's reason to wonder and worry," is her editorial. At the Washington Times, "From London to New York, authors warning about Islam's bloody borders unfold in real time." Eddie, those are two editorials in two conservative publications, the Washington Times and the Wall Street Journal. Those are two opinion pieces in the same period of time. You can't have a more stunningly different, divergent point of view about the future of this country than Peggy Noonan and this guy at the Washington Times warning about radical Islam. Like, you just, I don't even understand how we're here as a movement, party, whatever you want to call it. There are people in our midst, on our side, that are sitting around lamenting Donald Trump's Pentagon or the East Wing renovations, when there's an Islamist about to be elected mayor of New York City? I don't know what to do with you if that's your biggest concern.
It just reeks of someone who has everything they need, has everything they want,
Yes.
and no longer is in the trenches with us. I saw a great piece on 60 Minutes last year when one of the two big flips in Pennsylvania for congressional seats, and the person who lost, the Democrat, was asked, why do you think LGBTQ rights weren't a big deal? It's just like, because people that live where I live don't care about that. We don't have the luxury of caring about LGBTQ rights or whatever it is. These people like Peggy Noonan do.
I wanted to mention quickly, by the way, just because I got to it a little too late and went over it a little too fast. PhD Weight Loss, our sponsors and my friends, I just wanted to mention this number to you again because I want to get it out there. If you want to take advantage of this sale in October, people that want to lose weight, I know nobody wants to do it as we head into the holidays. This is a hell of a deal she's running, Dr. Lucas, until the end of the month. People say, what was the number? 864-644-1900, all right? It's 864-644-1900. I want you to call them today and say, I heard Stigall bragging about you. I want to lose 20 pounds. 864-644-1900. They can help you lose a lot more than that, by the way, or myphdweightloss.com. myphdweightloss.com. Let me go to, is Ron still with us in Oregon? Yeah? Okay, let's go over to, we don't talk to Oregonians nearly enough, Ron. Welcome in. Good morning. Not there. All right, let's try, how about Larry in Illinois then? Larry, are you there? Good morning. All right, we got a phone problem. Okay, there's a phone problem. Well, that's fantastic. Why shouldn't we end the show with a thud? Let's go to Scott Bessent. I need a Scott Bessent pick-me-up. How about this one? Number 62. Scott Bessent talking about China. He thinks they're going to come to the table this week with President Trump.
On the purchases of American goods, American farmers have been hit hard by China's boycott of American soybeans that went into place after the tariff war began here. The administration's pumping at least $3 billion in financial aid to farmers to help make them whole or at least offset the pain. Can farmers expect to sell their soybeans to China again, and when?
Margaret, I'm not going to give you the details here, but I can tell you that the soybean farmers are going to be extremely happy with this deal for this year and for the coming years.
A few weeks ago, there was a photographer who snapped a photo of you texting with the agricultural secretary about this. She indicated concern about the unintended damage to American farmers from the U.S. financial lifeline being given to Argentina, because that country was able to sell more to China. That gave Beijing leverage over the United States. Is that leverage still a problem today?
Well, first of all, that the text from Secretary Rollins was talking about a purchase of soybeans that the Chinese did, and Margaret, those soybeans were always going to get purchased. They just did it at a time when the Argentines had lifted their export taxes. So, those soybeans were always going to be on the market. It's a global market. The three leading suppliers are Brazil, Argentina, and the U.S., and I believe that we have brought the market back into equilibrium, and I believe that the Chinese will be making substantial purchases again.
All right, so Bessent giving some perspective there. I know people that are in the ag community are getting pretty ticked off, so those of you that are out there in farming or close to it, thought you'd be interested in Secretary Bessent's comments there. Bill Maher talking about the NBA gambling scandal that busted wide open last week. Give me number 70 here on his show Friday.
What does the NBA gambling scandal reveal about how pervasive sports betting is? Well, if it spread to the players, a lot.
Yeah, pretty darn, pretty darn pervasive, I think.
Yeah, look, it's part of the culture now. It's seeped into everything that you can.
Yeah, that's Michael Steele and Kate Bedingfield and and Bill Maher talking about this being a pervasive deal. And this came up a lot over the weekend. Does this undermine the legitimacy of all of sport? Will this have problems beyond basketball? Many people believe so. But the conclusion on that panel was, and we didn't get to it, was that, the NBA has had this coming, and they could really be taking on more water than they realize. So that's a wrap for another Chris Stigall Show podcast. Thanks for committing to it, listening to it all the way through. You're a fighter. I like that about you. Hope you'll leave it a 5-star review and a written review. Apple Podcasts, Spotify. We'll see you next time here on the Chris Stigall Show podcast.
The Chris Stigall Show podcast.